vote for when I decide who I'm going to vote for. And if I don't decide till I pull the lever, then I'll tell you the next day. But I don't want you voting because of how I feel. That makes you a low-information voter. And that makes me a bully, quite frankly, to think that I'm all that and more, that who I tell you to vote for, who I'm going to vote for, should change your mind. I want to stay as far away from that decision as I can. I may tell you at 4:58 on Election Day. And maybe I'll wait till the next day because I don't want to influence. I don't think I have any. I shouldn't. If I have influence over you on who you vote for president, let's have a cup of coffee. Let's sit down sometime. I want to introduce you to my buddy named Jesus because he's the guy that should influence you. Okay, it should be the biblical worldview of these candidates. And if they don't have a biblical worldview, then you need to think about that. But a way to get this is to come to the forum. Tickets are $15.
Super cheap. And this is an incredible event. I mean, 4 years ago, we learned so much about Rick Santorum. He shared so much of his heart. I mean, you really
talked about his daughter.
You know, this is a unique event. This is something I'm looking forward to. I'm excited that we're going to be able to do Max World live, actually live from the event before it starts. And that we're going to be there. I just think it's going to be a really cool event. So $15 is a drop in the bucket for something like this, especially if you're undecided and you're like a lot of us who are looking at these great evangelical leaders. You've got outspoken evangelicals like Ben Carson, Bobby Jindal, Ted Cruz. I believe Marco Rubio is a believer.
Yeah.
Rick Santorum, of course. You've got these folks. How do you choose? Mike Huckabee, is he coming? Is he on the list?
He's on the list.
He's on the list. Mike Huckabee, of course. These are strong believers. And if you're trying to pick between some of these, this is the event that you want to go to help you make that final decision.
And some of the questions will be offered by the audience.
Yes.
You won't have to stand up and say anything, but you'll have an option to write them down and give them to someone.
Get them submitted. Frank Lutz, who is pollster.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He did a great job at the Family Leadership Summit. He's going to be sitting kind of at the table with everyone, emceeing this conversation, and he's really good at weeding through the BS. I mean, he was the one who got Trump to kind of put Trump on the hot seat about asking, he noticed that Trump referred to evangelicals as, you guys.
Yeah, you religious people.
You religious people. And Frank was like, well, what about you, Trump? I mean, that was just a great moment, and that's the kind of stuff that Frank is paying attention. He asks good questions. I think it's going to be a pretty powerful night. And maybe, well, who knows what'll happen? These are just neat events. They're different.
And for $15, and by the way, it's a great date night.
Oh, yes.
If you're not in a committed relationship and you want to find how someone sits in the world of your politics and your faith, buy them a ticket to this, sit down, and then go out for dinner afterwards and see what they thought. Because if the response is, that was really boring, I don't even know what these people are talking about, I don't know if that's somebody you want to spend much more time with.
Right.
On the other hand, maybe they're the perfect one. I don't know. I'll tell you a funny story. So my wife, this goes back 30-some years when we first started dating. She knew absolutely nothing about football. Now, please remember that my wife is an incredibly intelligent woman. I mean, high-end intelligent, max. So one day we were watching football, and she said, what does the R stand for under their name when they'd say, like, Chris Roloff, number 5, and then there'd be an R? You know what the R stands for?
Is it their position, like running back, something like that? No? I don't know. What does the R sound? Rookie?
Yeah, it's rookie.
Okay.
I told my wife Republican.
Oh.
And she said, what does politics have to do anything with football? And then I realized how smart she was. Because I gave her the answer. She trusted me with the answer. But then she asked the obvious question. Why do we care if the running backs are Republican, right?
Well, and kind of why do you care if he's a rookie other than if you're watching stats and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, no, rookie's important.
It
rookie,
is?
Yeah, sure.
I'm really not a sports guy.
I'm not either. I'm a Nebraska football fan, and that's it. And it's a tough year to be a Nebraska football fan. Here's what's going to happen. Now, you know who the last game of the Hawkeye season is.
Nope.
It's Nebraska at Nebraska.
Wow.
Now, Nebraska has to win that game to be bowl eligible. And it'd be the first time in like 40-some years we have not gone to a bowl. Yeah, it's a big deal. So we have to win that game. What if the Hawkeyes win this weekend, which they probably will, and so they go in with 10-0, undefeated, number 2 or 3 in the country at that point, probably going to the Rose Bowl. Maybe the Rose Bowl might be the side of the national championship. There's where my lack of knowledge on football goes. I don't know about that.
Sure. Well, that's new.
And
anyway.
Nebraska beats them.
Yeah.
That would make me sad. I'm going to be a bigger but see, I want Nebraska to go to a bowl game. And they're off this week. So there's one game left for Nebraska, and that's Friday after Thanksgiving with the Iowa Hawkeyes at Memorial Stadium, the third largest city in Nebraska on game day. Wow.
That's going to be a hot day.
That will be a hot day. I don't know if I want to have anything to do with any Hawkeye fans that day if we win. Oh, it'll be terrible. I'll be shunned. I'll be ostracized. I will not be allowed to raise my hands in worship at church. There will be no amens. It'll be, in fact, I'll go to church. I may just not sit in my regular designated position.
So they won't know where to glare.
Yeah, they won't. That's right. They won't know where to glare or to throw popcorn at. All right, so when we come back, Chris is frustrated. God's got me on a little journey, and it's all around this refugee thing, and it's all around this ISIS and Paris thing. And so we're going to have a constructive conversation. Frank's here, and your voice is also welcome at 244-0077. We're coming back live here on The Truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
"21 minutes after the hour, 3 o'clock, 17th day of November in the Lord's year 2015. I'm J. Michael McCoy. There isn't much more to update you on other than France did continue their airstrikes last night, which would have been early this morning, over in Iraq. We're 12 hours difference from Iraq. I think that's correct. I think we're an even 12 hours, maybe 11 hours. So when it's 12 noon here, it's 12 midnight there.
Gotcha.
So this morning, the report started coming in. Now, wait, they're behind us, though. No, they'd be ahead of us. So when the report started coming in at last night, it was actually happening early in the morning. That's right. When our sun's going down, their sun's coming up. So French President Francois Hollande says his country, quote unquote, is at war. After 3 terms of gun-wielding ISIS suicide bombers, 3 teams, of gun-wielding ISIS suicide bombers hit 6 locations around Paris Friday night, including a rock concert, a sports stadium, and bustling restaurants. The president says, we, my country, or France, is at war. As investigators begin to piece together the details of the terrorist operation and hunt for one key suspect who is on the run, the French military is pounding ISIS targets in Syria with airstrikes. All right, as of this morning, 3 people have been arrested near a West German town of Aachen, 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 in connection with the Paris bombings. Prior to the Paris terrorist attacks, France and its allies tried to target one of these men who have been captured, a prominent ISIS member believed to have planned the attack on the magazine, El Charlie, over there in France. Also, it was discovered today that someone with a fake Syrian passport smuggled himself in with, guess who? It wasn't the cheerleading squad. It was the refugees. So we've already got one case documented of a terrorist, a member of ISIS, saying, I'm just a refugee. I'm running from the country. I'm one of you guys. I hate this ISIS group. Please protect me. And the bleeding heart liberals and the low information voters go, oh, what a cute little kitten. You want to come home with me? And then, they blow you up and kill you. So that's kind of where we're at. Now, officially, Sam Clovis is not here for another hour. But we've invited him in early. And you are not, in the next 36 minutes, you're not speaking for the candidate in which you are employed by. You are simply a former, I might add, colonel?
Yes.
Colonel in the Air Force.
Right.
And you know a lot about the Middle East.
I do indeed.
Yeah. By the way, tomorrow's guest is going to be Mike Ahmed. You know who Mike is.
Yes.
Do you know who Mike Ahmed is?
No.
This is a guy you should meet. This guy, he's probably 50, 55. He's been in this country for about 30 years. He was on Anwar Sadat's cabinet, and he was 20 feet from him when that man was assassinated. He fled the country, came to America, thought he would convert people to Muslim or Islam, said, well, if I'm going to do that, I better understand what Christianity is. While reading the Bible, Jesus mugged him, and now he's just a stormtrooper for Jesus and has a wonderful understanding of the Middle East, and he's able to communicate it very well. So he's on tomorrow afternoon, and I look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So where were you Friday night when somebody whispered in your ear that Paris had just been hit by ISIS?
Well, we were, I think as a matter of fact, I was on the way home. I had been on a trip in the state, and I was home and went home, and of course we got the news on and started watching the news, and stunning development there. I'm going to tell you a side story here. This is very, very interesting. I had, in one of my previous lives, I was a professor for the Department of Homeland Security's Masters in Homeland Security program that they had run several cohorts on the East Coast and West Coast. And one of my East Coast students, a lieutenant in one of the New Jersey police departments, wrote her thesis on the Mumbai attack that took place. And so when I saw this, the very first thing I thought of was this police lieutenant, and I sent her a Facebook message and So we've conversed several times here, and there is deja vu. I mean, the way that the Mumbai attack was laid down in Mumbai, India, and what happened in Paris were very similar, and they were conducted by Islamic jihadists. And so it struck me as that I'd seen this movie before, and it was fascinating from that aspect, very tragic from all others. And then yesterday, our president gets up and gives that press conference, and I have never been more ashamed of a president of the United States than I was yesterday. Even Bill Clinton, in the worst depravity of his life, could not measure up to what I heard yesterday from our president. A person who is in total denial, who thinks about radical Islam in the abstract and not in the reality, and it's just, to me, is stunning. And that, to me, was one of the most stunning developments of the last 72 hours. So.
Here's an open letter that I wrote to the president. Now, if I were to say that 30 years ago, it would have been a big deal. Now, of course, you can write an open letter and put it on Facebook and you're published.
Right.
But here's the letter I wrote. Tell him, because I think you and I felt the same thing. Mr. President, it's time to check your ego at the door and step it up on the war on ISIS. I have supported you when we as a country needed to be one nation under God. Now is that time, Mr. President. In my opinion, you erred on your speech in reaction to the Paris attacks. You seemed more annoyed with a questioning of your strategy than the actual attacks. I know that's not true, but that's how it came off. Please, your ego aside, and admit when you're wrong. There is a time to get serious, and this is the time. We must build a coalition and bring down all of the American military might on these cockroaches. The American public also needs to keep in mind that there will be great sacrifice. As we prepare for American soldiers to be captured, are we prepared for American soldiers to be captured by ISIS and then see the videos of them tortured and beheaded on TV? Because keep in mind, that's a very real possibility. I'm willing to admit when the president missteps. You need to admit, Mr. President, that you need to change your course and get more serious about this threat. And I am praying for you, Mr. President. Be our leader. God bless the USA. God bless our allies and the long fight against terror. And God bless everyone reading this. Is that where you were at when he says that ISIS is contained?
Well, ISIS is contained. The Paris attack is a setback. And this is after 10 days of absolute terror on the part of ISIS, down a Russian airplane, killing over 200 people, an attack into Shia Muslim enclave in Beirut, killing 50 people and injuring another 150, and then the attack in Paris, killing now 130 plus and injuring 350 plus. So these are the issues that we face, and we have a president who is so detached and so deaf to what's going on in the world, and then on Friday to have released those 5 Gitmo detainees,
yes.
Oh my goodness.
and then not talk about it, and then Sunday announce the fact that he had done it, as if it was just another walk in the park. And one of these guys is supposedly was a bodyguard of Osama bin Laden, who should have never been allowed to see the light of day ever again. And so this is the administration that we have in charge of this country. And Mike Goodwin from the Washington Times, I think it was the Washington or the New York Post, put out this issue, and in very harsh words, not my words, his words. Mr. President, if you're not willing to lead, quit.
Yeah.
Resign.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing you look at, and then listen to his rhetoric yesterday. He says, this issue of American victory or of us winning, that's not what this is about. And then he got all up in that one guy's face about the fact of, are you going to examine the process of bringing Syrian refugees into this country? He said no. And so 25 governors exercising the authority to take care of their people said, we're not going to allow you to bring people, refugees into this country. So those are all the things that are ongoing, and it all comes back to the fecklessness of this president and his administration. And they cannot, if they cannot even utter the words radical Islam, then we have they have no chance of addressing this appropriately.
If you can't name them,
you can't fight them.
Frank?
Sam, would you agree that we're the only country in the world that has the wherewithal and the military might to take this fight to ISIS? We have to lead and get whatever coalition of allies we can behind us, but we have to lead the fight.
Well, I would agree with that. Here's my note. Let's just give you some things to think about. We have the French flew 20 sorties against those camps that that they knew where we told them where those camps were. Then you have to ask yourself, why didn't we bomb them already?
Yeah, we asked that question yesterday on the air.
And then you have the fact that the French that's about as much as they can produce. We have an air force that we could put over there, and we could produce 2,000 sorties a day if we so chose. Now, we're flying 5, not 500, 5 sorties a day. And we could put enough airplanes over it. One squadron could send over there, could fly 60 sorties a day. We send 5 squadrons over, we're at 300 sorties a day. And so you just essentially get 60 sorties a day out of a squadron, rule of thumb. And they can do that forever. So why is it that we don't have more airplanes on the ground in Saudi Arabia, in Iraq, in Turkey, and we're not bombing these people back into the Stone Age? Because we have the capability to do it. Plus, we have the command and control to do it. So, Frank's point is an excellent one. We have the infrastructure, and we have the wherewithal. And we don't need to be doing this alone. I mean, this is a NATO issue. France was attacked. They could invoke Article 5 of the NATO Charter. Then all of the 28 members of NATO would come in and contribute at some level, up to the level they're capable of. And then we could go forward from there. Plus, it's in the interest of those Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, then around to Jordan and Israel and Egypt. It's in their interest to support us in this effort, because if they don't support us, this is their next. They're going to be visited on this. So all of the kingdoms, all of the structures, all of the emirates, all of those things will go away, because the ISIS will not allow that type of a structure to remain in place. And ISIS will go over and kill anybody that disagrees.
Sam Clovis is our guest, colonel in the United States Air Force, retired, radio talk show host, ran for Senate.
United States Senate.
Here in the state of Iowa. He's currently working for one of the candidates. We'll talk more about his position with that candidate next hour with Tom Coates. Our topic is your topic, 515-244-0077. It's your voice I want to hear in Mac's World. When we come back, something that Chris and I were talking about in the office before the show starts, the just absolutely irritation that I feel from some of my brothers in Christ about their lackadaisical position on what's going on. We'll talk about that when we come back. Live here on The Truth. Yeah, you found it. Congratulations. This is The Truth, 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News at the top of the hour. And then Tom Coates and Sam Clovis, the representative for a candidate that he believes in very much. We're not going to talk about this hour. We'll talk about that next hour. Sam just came in to talk a little bit about this. And what this is what's going on in Paris and across the nation. Because we really are at a world crisis right now, aren't we?
I think so. I think that it's there's you never wish tragedy on anyone, but I do think that this is a massive wake-up call, and particularly for Europe. And I think Angela Merkel is in deep trouble in Germany because we're seeing this is a rise of Islam. She has wanted to import 800,000 Syrian refugees because, as Mark Stein said the Germans are too lazy to make babies, so they need to labor. So they're willing to import the labor, the future, and they don't care about. Or Angela Merkel does not care about the outcomes that come with the blending or the attempting to assimilate, a million Muslims into the German culture. This is something that I think a lot of countries in Europe are having to. They're very liberal and very liberal view, but I think this is one of those things that will say, well, these people aren't interested in assimilating. These people aren't interested in becoming part of the country. And what we see are the enclaves. And I remember Bobby Jindal being criticized so heavily, years ago when he's talking about the Paris no-go zones. And well, now we find out that those, in fact, are true. That the police will not go into certain parts of Paris, and now we know why. And now they are going in there, and they are going in to clean them out. And I think the one thing you have to worry about is the knee-jerk reaction, the anti-Islamic knee-jerk reaction. But at the same time, aiding and abetting terrorists is not good. You're as guilty as they are, and if that's what's going on, then we need to go in and root them out.
Well, and I hate to tell you, and this was the thing Chris and I were talking about today. President Merkel, did I say that right? Merkel is not the only one that I have to worry about. I have to worry about a lot of my brothers and sisters in Christ. And Sam, I've heard this since Saturday, since Friday night. I have actually had a couple people who I really love very deeply, men who have come beside me in my life when my walk began, and they just had an unbelievable patience with me. And they're just sharing with me that we need to love our enemy. We need to love the Syrian refugees. We need to love ISIS. We should pray for them. We should not be wishing for their destruction. That's no worse than they're wishing for us. And as Christians, we need to shut up and pray. Isn't that kind of sum up what we were talking about? What else do you have?
Yeah, that's a lot of what you're hearing from the church, and I think that in some, well, not in some, I think in all respects they're right. Okay, they're 100% right that is the role of the church. The role of the Church of Jesus Christ is called to love our enemies. We were called to do that. I was talking off air, but what if that means, if that puts us in harm's way? What if that means that we could be killed and we could be destroyed? You know, you think back to the time when Christ went to go visit the lepers. At that time, visiting the lepers meant death, right? In the mind of the people, this was risking death. Right. As Christians, I think it's true that we should love our enemies, and that means Islamic extremists. We have to love them. Now, that's difficult to do. That's difficult to say. In fact, it's borders on impossible because I don't want to do that. And our hearts have to be changed that we, in fact, have to love them. But herein is the issue that I have with Christians saying that as the answer to this situation. The Bible also teaches us that government has a role. And when you read in Romans 13, the government bears the sword, not the hug or the kiss or the love or the cuddly, warm feelings. The government does, in fact, bear the sword. There is biblical justification for war. There is biblical justification for justice to be had. We have a violent people trying to not only attack me, but they're attacking thousands, hundreds, millions of people. They are hell-bent on destruction. Justice must be served there. Jesus didn't say love your enemies and let your enemies continue to be wicked and vile and awful. That's not even close to what he said. That's not what he said. We love our enemies. That's an extension of the gospel, but there is also justice. There is wrath to be had. And I think, Sam, that Christians, good-meaning Christians, I think on both sides, there are good-meaning Christians who say we need to love the Syrian refugees, we need to welcome them in, we need to care for them and love them, and we shouldn't send them out. And I can see their point. But at what point are we being irresponsible and saying this quote-unquote love your neighbor we're doing at the risk of someone else? We're putting someone else in danger. It's one thing to risk my life. It's another thing to say, I'm going to risk the life of my neighbor. We think of the scripture again, the Apostle Paul, who wrote in Romans 13 that the government bears the sword. He also said he admonished men and women to, if possible, not get married so that they could stay single, so that they could be devoted to the work of the ministry, because when you get married, the things of the world become your concern. When we become husband and when I have a wife, I don't get to just do whatever I want to do. I have to stand up and defend my wife. If I want to go to Istanbul and serve, or if I want to go to Syria and preach the gospel to Syrians there, I can do that if God calls me to do that. But if I do that at the risk of my wife, now I have a problem, right? And I think that's part of what we're missing when we say, love these Syrian refugees, let them come. But wait, if they want to harm us, I don't know that that's fully loving.
Frank?
So sometimes it's okay to kill your enemies.
Your enemies, yes.
Yes.
I would say that this is going to sound like I'm quibbling here, Frank, but I would say I am not the government. America makes this complicated, Sam. I don't
think so.
But I mean, you know, I am not the president of the United States. I don't bear the sword. I don't get to send our military into Syria. That's not my job. My job is to love my enemies. If someone from Syria walks in here, my job is to love them and to serve them, offer them a glass of water, do whatever I can for them to serve them. But the government of the United States, that's a whole different ball of wax. They have bombs and guns, and they are here to inflict justice upon the wicked, and the wicked need to have justice inflicted upon them.
I have a much more pragmatic view of this, and maybe it's because of my background in education. I look at it as immoral to allow this to go on. It is immoral because there is a moral dimension about the preservation and protection of this culture. There's a moral obligation for us to protect the people of this nation. We have a moral obligation.
Right.
Our country was founded on natural law and natural rights. No law should exist in this country that does not comport with natural law and natural rights. And the start of that is the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, and we are there. I, as a member of the military, I never would have hesitated, not for 1 nanosecond, would I have hesitated to put 2,000 pounds of bombs on some target where I had some guy down there that was intent on killing Jews or Christians or, frankly, killing anyone.
Sam, would you be referring to a daisy cutter?
I would put anything that was effective. And the reason is because the job that is a moral obligation. If you go back to Alvin York, I remember the Medal of Honor winner in World War I was a conscientious objector, a person who was drafted, went into the Army, served in the fight in 69th. It was one of the most famous divisions in American Army history. And Alvin York went in there and he killed 22 Germans in one engagement, captured 190 of them, marched them all over France, and finally got rid of them. And his commanding officer asked him and said, "How was it you came to kill so many? Because I know that your mind and your conscience, you're a God-fearing man." He says, "I killed them to save lives."
That's right.
That's the issue. You go out there and you would eradicate this cancer that we have on the earth, and that's radical Islam. And we do that to save the lives of millions.
All right, Sam Clovis is here, Tom Coates is here, and, of course, Chris Roloff is here. Frank is producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. We continue this conversation about the temperature of Christians and others in America about what's going to happen, because we all know it's going to happen. It might be today, it might be tomorrow, and it might impact you directly.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, 10 minutes before the top of the hour, live here in Max World Live on 99.3. The Truth. Next hour, Sam Clovis will remain with us, as well as Tom Coates. You going to hang around for a while, too?
If it's as awesome as this has been, absolutely. I mean, I would be foolish to leave. This has been great.
And we're going to continue to talk about the ISIS situation across the globe. I don't know how anybody can sit there and deny what's going on. You know, it's kind of interesting. You've got President of France saying this is war.
Right.
And you've got Obama saying, no, this is just a little setback. Now, how do you think the president of France feels when his coalition partner is saying, no, it's just a little setback?
I really don't think that. I think for President Hollande, I think it's been again a wake-up call and eye-opening experience. I think the entire he's a liberal. I mean, he comes from the socialist strain there in France, but I also think that he has the French have always been about protecting their people, and I mean that's always been part of their heritage, and even when they were a colonial power, they were very strong on protecting the French at all costs. I think this is, again, a wake-up call for all of them, and I think that he doesn't care. I really don't think he cares that Obama is not part of the deal, because France is going to do what France has to do. I think you're going to be surprised at the number of people that they're able to pull through on this. I think that the problem is that all of the collective, might and power of the European forces is not going to be nearly enough to go over there with 20-some countries trying to put forces on the ground. Most of them can barely afford to put a battalion or out there, let alone a brigade or two
What
brigades.
about Russia, though? You'd
Well,
think
I
Russia
think-
would be a part of our coalition.
I really think it's problematic. I really think it's problematic because Russia's not going to put their forces under anybody else's command, nor will we. So I think that's problematic. I think that there is the complexity here is the fact that Russia and Iran, it is in their interest to eradicate ISIS. It is in their interest. And the reason it's in their interest is because Iran is supporting all of the Shia forces across that belt there, and ISIS is Sunni. They're radical jihadist Sunni Muslim.
This is really a revolutionary war.
It's almost a civil war of sorts. And this is, I think, is the message that's coming out. And I think Russia will side with Iran. Whatever Iran decides to do, Russia will support that. And Iran and NATO will never be on the same page. They will never be on the same page.
Sam, can there be more than two sides in this world
I
war?
think there already are. I think if you take a look at the Kurds, the Peshmerga forces up in the Turkish area, in northern Iraq, I think that you have a Sunni enclave around Fallujah there and Baghdad. Then you have, of course, the Shia, the massive Shia population in the south of the country. And I do think that the Gulf states, there are interesting aspects there because you're looking at Jordan and Saudi Arabia, who have already put forces in harm's way in Yemen, and now we're asking them to go put themselves in harm's way in Syria.
If Mitt Romney were the president, or George W. Bush, or somebody who's a known commodity, okay, how would it be different for us in America right now?
Well, I think we would have not withdrawn out of Iraq. That would be one thing. I think that would have been, still have 20,000 troops over there.
Because that caused this, didn't it?
Well, essentially the race to get out of there. And I think that this goes to the ideological bent of our president. I think that he is every bit as ideological in his dimension as and I think it makes him blind and deaf to the world situation, because I think he is driven by and he cannot admit he's wrong. I mean, this is a pathologically unable to admit he's wrong.
But isn't there anybody in his cabinet that?
No.
Wow, I can't imagine being surrounded by
look
good.
Who they are. I mean, Susan Power, and we have others that are every bit as ideologically warped as he is. And how would he tolerate anybody that's not like that? He could not tolerate that, because his personality, his psychopathy is such that he cannot tolerate anything that would be in a disagreement with him at all.
A true narcissist.
Beyond pathological narcissist, yes.
Tom, you got anything to say?
Well, there was, what was the name of the one Republican that he did have in his cabinet for a while, came out just recently and said...
Ray LaHood.
Yeah, Ray LaHood, and he affirmed what Sam just said.
Was it Gates?
And Bob Gates as well, yeah.
But it was Ray LaHood that I was thinking about, and he came out and testified and wrote about how Obama is surrounded by people that think like he does, gave lip service to wanting to be bipartisan, but has been anything but. So, Sam, there's a number of things I want to ask you about. Why is Obama so much for Iran now that he has turned his back on what would traditionally be our Sunni allies like Saudi Arabia and many others? Why has that shift occurred?
Well, I think again it goes to the whole idea of where his sympathies lies. I really think that ideologically he is bent that way. I think that the Shia aspect of the religion appeals to him for some reason far more than the Sunni aspect. And I also think that he looks at that he does not like the idea, because he knows that Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and the other Gulfs, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, they're all in America's pocket. And I think he's doing everything he can to diminish the influence and power of America around the world. Because, and here's why. Because if we're not spending money out there on those things, then we have all that money. And I mean, it really is a resource issue. He has resources then here in the United States to spend on social programs and other aspects, which is just, I mean, that's an ideologically driven agenda. And it's all about ideology.
All right. Sam Clovis and Tom Coates from Consumer Credit. Chris Roloff and Frank and I will roll over to the next hour as we are here in Mac's World on the 17th day of November. This is a time period that we should all be paying attention. And it's not a time to simply complain and voice your opinion and share your fears. It's a time to pray. It's a time to pray for our enemies. It's a time to pray for our president. It's time to pray that God's will be done for our life. But it's also time that the truth come to the top. This is not a time for Christians to bury their head in the sand and run to just a few scriptures that comfort them and tell them, pray for our enemies. It may be so, but it's not a time to get buried that way. All right, we're coming back as we are live here in Mac's World on 99.3. This is KTIA, Iowa.